Kyle. Welcome to Data Lens, the short series where we talk about market research in the outdoor hospitality industry. Today, I'm here with Scott Barr, the president of Cairn Consulting Group, who has over 35 years of market research experience, and Scott has a wealth of knowledge to share, and I'm here to ask him the questions that you want to know. Except on this special episode, we're just going to be hopping right on into it because Scott has a great episode for us. Scott, take it away.
Today, what I want to focus a little bit on is what some of our biggest challenges are in the industry, where we're at. There are some things happening out there. There's some reasons behind it. The industry itself talks a lot about these issues. Not a lot of people are offering up really good solutions. And so what we embarked on was a research strategy to first diagnose what some of the problems truly are, and then dig in a little bit on what could potentially be done. And then at the end, I'm going to kind of just wrap up with some general thoughts on where things are, where we think they're heading. I want to just dive into the idea that everybody in the industry knows that we've been down or flat a little bit the last couple of years. The industry itself has seen that. We consider some of it a little bit of normalization from COVID. Just the idea that COVID was this disruptive event that changed things in our industry a lot. And I will go on record and say, and I said this in my presentation last week to the Florida, Alabama Outdoor Hospitality Conference, that we haven't done a real good job of reacting to this. And some of the things that we need to do are going to be different, and they're going to be tough for the industry overall to adapt to, what I firmly believe we can. So with that in mind, we are in the era of the less avid participant in the outdoors. And I'm saying that because it isn't just camping and outdoor hospitality. It includes the outdoor recreation sector overall. If you go out and look at the OIA research on participation trends, they will call it, as we have called it, the same thing, that era of the casual participant. People who still participate, but not as often as they used to. In our industry, since 2019, we have seen an 11% decline in the campers, guests who take 3 or more trips a year. We've seen a decline in that level of avidity among our guests in our pool of guests. By contrast, those participate or take just 1 trip per year has increased 257%. So those figures are quite dramatic. That explains it in one fell swoop, that we aren't getting people to camp and stay with us multiple times. With that comes a very different mindset in how people engage in the category. And it isn't as simple as flipping a switch and all of a sudden getting people to stay more, visit you one more time. A promotion isn't going to change the industry, because this is an industry-wide problem. It isn't just a campground by campground problem. This is systemic. So promotions, yes, they can always help. I'm not going to say don't do promotions. What I'm going to say, though, is that the problem is rooted much deeper. We don't have people who are not just avid, but the loyal, that come back multiple times, that are really into the category enough that it's the one thing they look forward to, that for them, it's a part of their lifestyle. So what you have then is a group of people who they score a lot lower on some of the measurements that we've been using. And we did some research that shows how engaged people are in the category. One is our emotional intensity index, and that measures how attached people are to the category. What emotions do they get from participating in camping and the outdoors? The other is the outdoor immersion score, which essentially is when they go on a camping trip, how much are they actually in the outdoors? What percentage of their time Do they spend outdoors versus screen time versus maybe inside an accommodation or inside a store or restaurant or lodge or game room? So the idea here is we have this emotional connection as well as level of immersion they have actually in the outdoors. So between the two of those, you start to get an idea of what it is. And each of these measurements has different subscores in different areas that you can diagnose and look at in terms of what's driving some of their behavior. And we also have a third way of looking at the information, and that's the outdoor accommodations risk evaluation, which is what risk do they assign making a reservation when booking a trip? Again, these are the things that drive their behavior, that impact them, and impact whether or not they are going to come back. So with that in mind, what we have right now from the research that we conducted is that we know that the more someone is immersed in the outdoors, the more emotion that they assign to that experience. The more emotion that they assign to the experience combined with immersion increases their motivation to return. And it also increases their desire for a deeper future immersion camping experience. And this, if you can picture how this is a big cycle, it's the infinity diagram, and it feeds off itself. Immersion, emotional intensity, motivation to return, desire for more immersion. The more immersion they get, the more likely they are to increase their stays. And if you can get someone to have just even a little bit more of an immersive experience, it significantly increases the likelihood that they will return. And then in that return, they're significantly more likely to want deeper future immersion. So it feeds off itself. Where we are currently is we're in the opposite cycle. They have one experience. They do not have high outdoor immersion. They thus do not feel the emotional intensity. Their motivation to return is decreased, and they have no desire for future immersion. And the reason this is a negative spiral is because they have yet to experience the emotional connections to the outdoors that keep others coming back. The ones who traditionally take the multiple trips per year, that 3+ trips group, they feel it. They want more of it. They want more camping. They want more experiences because that's what pushes them. That's what drives them to participate. And again, that one trip person is much less likely to experience any of that. We have it in our data. We have it in our report that where someone who takes one trip a year, they're much less likely to be immersed in the outdoors. Their screen time is way up. Their time indoors in the accommodation is way up. Thus, their emotional intensity score is way down. They're less motivated to return, and they have no desire for deeper future immersion because they haven't experienced all of that just yet. This is the cycle that we need to be able to reverse. And this is what our research really tried to accomplish in this effort, and why we feel that this research is so important. Because one of the things that we also did is we did a series of interviews with one-time guests, and we got a great deal of information from them that was somewhat surprising, in that what we tried to do was get people to tell us, what could a campground do to get you to maybe do just one more thing? Just, again, all it takes is one thing, one little thing, and you increase your likelihood of return and more immersion. So here's what they told us, is to make the immersive experiences automatic by ensuring easy access from campsites and having built-in nature touch points. No decision-making required. It's just there. It's just part of them being there. And I think for a campground owner, you can kind of picture how this might work. where they're going to have a little bit more of an outdoor experience just by being at your campground and maybe walking around, being around others and so on. Design effortless upgrades such as things like campfire cooking options instead of restaurants. Promote that type of experience. The outdoor cooking experience is very strong. Clearly marked short, approachable trails that are designed for, don't say for beginners, but more like a start here type of experience. There's a couple things here that happens with these guests is that they don't want it to be overly curated. They don't want to have it shoved down their throat, and they don't want to be called beginners, even though they are. But we just aren't going to call them that. We're going to make it easy. Another thing they told us was to remove fear signals using no experience needed framing type of approach. It's subtle, but it's effective. And this is coming from the mouths of guests. The other thing to consider is shrink the time to reward by offering shorter, like 30, maybe 60-minute immersive moments. It could be a little demo. It could be just a short nature walk. It could be something really simple. Come over here and there's a bird here that you should see, or a nest. But keep it short, keep it accessible so that the guests themselves feel like they're in control of it, that you're not shoving it down their throat, that it's not this overly intense type of experience. And these are the baby steps. And that's why I'm focusing on this. I'm not going to focus on anything else for a while, because these baby steps are what's needed. We have to take these steps before we can move on to the bigger stuff. That will happen as people become more immersed. They will seek this. That will happen organically. We see in our research that the people who are just glampers now have a strong desire to have more backcountry experiences. And that's what it's all about. So what we have to do is we want people to desire that, because we know if they have a backcountry experience, they're really immersed and they're going to come out very different than when they started. But we can't just throw them out there and have them do that. We have to start small. We have to start with very achievable things. Because one of the most important considerations that they mentioned was keep control with the guest, because self-guided is better than scheduled and optional is greater than mandatory. So if you think of that as a formula, that self-guided is greater than scheduled and optional is greater than mandatory, those are the baby steps. It's how we do it. Your hardcore guests, the people who come and stay with you a lot, this doesn't apply to them. They already know. So that group, they're out there, they know what to do. They've been doing it for years. This is the group that only comes once a year, that doesn't really know what they're doing. They tend to be younger. Because the blunt reality is that if you position immersion as intense, time-consuming, and requiring a lot of effort, you'll lose this group immediately. If you position it as easy, nearby, and naturally part of what they're already doing, you'll move them from a 5 to a 6 on a scale of 10. If you can just move them up 1, then you've achieved a great deal. To wrap up what's going on in the industry right now, camping demand appears to be stabilizing a bit. We're seeing a little bit of improvement in forward intent for 2026. I think there's some great opportunity with Gen Z. A lot of that has to do with what I just talked about. That group is the one that we need the most work on. And I think that everything I talked about the last few minutes applies to them. Wellness is a repeat trip driver, keeping that in mind, that for many too, that glamping is a gateway product that expands the funnel, and we can get them into other things as well once they start out there. But just keep that in mind that a lot of people are starting off glamping. Family travel is still a real strong emotional connector for a lot of people. And thinking about our industry, outdoor hospitality, when participation is generally flat, but the people showing up, what they need and what they'll pay for are all shifting, that's what we have. The category is holding its ground, but it's being reshaped from the inside out. Like camping households have stayed essentially steady, and new camper rates now look like 2019, which clearly shows that the pandemic spike is fully normalized, I would say. But the stability headline masks the bigger story, which is, again, that more casual guest. We've seen the center moving a little bit older as well. We need that influx of younger campers again. We need to retain them at a much higher rate. We've just seen a decent amount of attrition. And so that's resulting in the demand is concentrating. That group of 3+ nights is concentrating into a much smaller group. And to close up here, I just want to talk about Gen Z for a moment. And their participation was down. It's a group that should be increasing organically. Not every person from Gen Z qualifies to be in our research because they're not adults yet. Each year, and for the next 3 years, we will have Gen Zers aging in as adults. But what's happened for the first time ever in doing our research is we've seen a decline in the generation that's aging in. 47% of Gen Zers that we've surveyed are at risk of not participating again or continuing that very casual approach to the outdoors. 47%, that's half. That's a lot. No one wants to lose half their guests. But 34% are interested in having more rustic experiences. That's big. That gives me a lot of hope. There's also 31% seek solo travel. 31%, that's a lot. And that idea of solo social is real with this group. They want social travel, but they want to socialize once they get there with others. So the solo travel, they want to be determined by themselves. As I mentioned a little earlier, self-determination is a big factor. And with this group, it's much larger even. I do feel that some of this comes from almost a quarter of Gen Zers camp with their parents. And 28%, about 3 in 10, say their travel companions are one of the things they like least about camping. So we're dealing with a different group here. And we're dealing with a group that's a lot different from what we have seen traditionally. And it just means we have to work a little bit harder. We have to listen. We have to do a lot of listening, diving into results and really digging into maybe some of the results that we have here. So it's the Gen Zers, they're less social, they have less background in the set of skills and knowledge for camping. But they're less responsive to typical outreach and messaging on experiences and infrastructure available at campgrounds because that's not what they want. So you have to think of it differently. And retaining them is going to require much more experiential programming, some strong digital touch points, and this kind of social community design that allows them to make those choices. And that motivates them more so than even promotions and lower prices. That really sums up what I wanted to say here today, is that as we move forward through the rest of 2026, the economy is going to be a big topic of discussion. And I think what we're going to do is end this talk here and pick up maybe the economy next time on our video and talk about what that means. I feel like that's a conversation worth having. And if anyone would like to speak about this research further or potentially get an executive summary of the report, please reach out to us either via our website or you can email me directly at scott@cairnconsultinggroup.com.
Thank you so much, Scott, for that. And as always, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Data Lens from Cairn Consulting Group. Today, we just covered some trends that are happening in the industry. And don't forget to leave a comment or question for next week's episode. Hit that like button. And as always, subscribe so you never miss a thing. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.